Okay, this is just going to be a quickie today on older motorcycle tachometers, and this was on the cb400. And what was happening was the tach needle was jumping up and down. So it would get to like 4,000, jump to 9, go back down, blah, blah, blah. So I pulled it apart to see what was happening. And what actually was happening is, if you look at the speedometer here, or the tachometer, there's a magnet inside. I'm going to use a drill to spin this with a barbecue skewer in there. And you can see how that spins. And as it spins past this drum that moves, and magnetically it picks up the drum and moves the drum a little bit as it's spinning, and the drum's attached to the needle, so the needle moves. And oops, maybe if I spin it the right way. Is that the right way? Yeah. You can see the faster it spins past that drum, the faster it spins the drum. And that's as fast as my drill goes. So anyway, what had happened to this one was down at the base, it had broken off. These are pressed in. They're around the center there. It's pressed in, but over time, I guess this had broke, and it was flopping. So this whole wheel in here was flopping and hitting the side, sometimes grabbing and sometimes not grabbing this wheel here, the magnetic wheel. And you can see little chunks about it where it was grabbing and hitting the side, but it's still fine, works fine. To remove it from the tachometer case, which way does this go? This way. It has to be unbolted, but to get it out of the case, you need to remove the face and glass. Oh, I haven't got it perfectly spread out right now, but basically there's this crimped ring all the way around the edge, and it's crimped on like that. You just take a screwdriver, flat-headed screwdriver, and pry this up gently all the way around until it's off enough and you can pull it out. And then when you put it back together, you're just gonna have to crimp that back down around the outer case. And there's two Phillips headed bolts that hold it in on the bottom. And anyway, yeah, that's pretty simple. I mean, the only other thing that can keep them from working properly is if they're not lubed and spinning. So I mean, if it spins nice and easily and freely on here, then you know everything's good. And if it's loose at all in the bottom, if it wiggles the slightest bit, this has to be either glued. I've used a steel epoxy on here, kind of like a liquid JB Weld, a liquid kind of like JB Weld. It's called epoxy steel. And that has set for 24 hours and hardened, so now no more jumpy tachometer. So anyway, if you've got a jumpy tach on an old, I'm pretty sure most bikes are mostly the same. I haven't taken a Yamaha apart for years, but most of the Hondas from the 70s and early 80s are going to be like this, with a tachometer drive cable. The electronic ones are a little bit different, but the ones with a direct drive cable, mechanical drive cable, are going to be very similar to this. And hopefully that helps someone. Again, there's the little drum that spins the tach needle, and there's the little wheel inside that, as it spins, the magnetic force picks up and grabs this and pulls it along with it. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. Okay, now that everything's back together, the plastic case is on, and I should have filmed all this. I didn't. I should have. But the trim ring is on the top that holds the glass in. You have to make sure this is kind of tight because there's a rubber gasket in there that seals water out of your gauge from getting in there. So once it's placed on there, I'm just using a big pair of slip joint pliers. The top, where I'm going to be grabbing up here on the top of the gauge face, that doesn't really get seen depending on your gauges, but on this bike the top doesn't really get seen. But I put electrical tape on there anyway to keep it from scratching or marring the top. And then you're just going to go along and gently squeeze the bottom where you've pried it up. You've had to pry the lip up. bottom until it's all squeezed back together. And there we go. Let's try it one more time and make sure we have a working gauge. And we do. Thanks for watching.